Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We're missing our NAACP Pittsburgh branch president, Dalen Davis. He was having a little technical difficulties, but that's okay. We have a great guest tonight. Please like, subscribe, share. If you have any questions for our guest tonight, make sure that you put them in the chat and they will be answered. So let's get ready to get started. Hello, Matt.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing?
We're doing really well. Today was a good day. Yeah, we're out and about. We're trying to be everywhere, and we're trying hard.
Yeah, I do see you everywhere. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you. I want to thank your team for, getting you on our schedule. So I want to make sure that I give your team, big props and thank you. And the reason that we do these community educational civic series to make sure that our community is educated on the importance of our local elections. And so if you don't have any questions at this time, we can actually get started, Matt.
I'm ready.
Okay, so I know you. My tech guy just got to get to know you, and a lot of people know you. But for people who don't know you, for people who is just hearing or seeing Matt Dugan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I live in Moon Township right now. I've been here for about 12 years. My wife and I lived in the South Side for 8 years before that. And I've been with the Public Defender's Office. Actually, yesterday was my 16th year anniversary. So I've been with the Public Defender's Office for a long time. Thank you. Yeah, and I've held almost every position in the office, from little baby pretrial attorney to trial attorney. I was a homicide lawyer for a bit, and then a bunch of management jobs as well, from trial manager to deputy. And for the past 3.5 years, I've been serving as the county's chief public defender. And I've had the opportunity I've been in every single MDJ office in the county. I've tried cases in every single courtroom in the Court of Common Pleas. And for the last 5 years, I've really been working on more like system-wide reform work. So I've been out of the courtroom, but really trying to do things at a top level. I've been trying to reform our criminal justice system from, the ground level to, now the highest level. So, that's really what this campaign is all about.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Matt. And that goes into my my second question, because if I were to ask someone, even some of your coworkers, a lot of times you are not the most liked person in the room because of the way of your factual, the way that you is not a two-sided coin. And so explain to us, why do you feel that you are sometimes the most disliked person in the room because of the way that you carry yourself and the law?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And it sort of goes hand in hand with people asking me, how can I go from one side to the other? So, being a public defender is very, very difficult. It's difficult work. And, we are responsible for providing representation to the most marginalized folks in our county, right? These are folks who really struggle to make ends meet on a daily basis. Each day is a challenge. Wow. And, the system, the criminal justice system, it's an adversarial system. It's just, that's the way it's designed. You've got, the government on one side, and really, for the most part, it's the little guy on the other side. And, we show up for the little guy. And over the years, we've just seen, a shift in, well, I can't say that it was ever really great, but, there's just such an imbalance. And the criminal justice system, in my opinion, has been asked to take on so much. A lot of the folks that we see, and in fact, the vast majority of folks that we see in criminal court, are folks accused of committing low-level nonviolent offenses.
Mhm.
And the reason why folks are there, I say there's usually four main drivers into the criminal justice system: substance abuse disorder, untreated, undiagnosed mental health issues, instability, that is lack of consistent access to resources, to fully funded schools, to high paying jobs, food insecurity, whatever, poverty, right? The
Mhm.
poverty
Mhm.
basically is a driver into the criminal justice system. And the fourth factor is a combination of any one of those first three. So, public defenders are typically not, nobody really is on our side. Nobody's there for the clients except for our office. And that's why it was
Yeah.
so important to me when I took over the office, was to
Mhm.
find a way to make the public defender's office less reactionary to the criminal justice system as a whole, less reactionary to the policies and the ineffectiveness in certain cases of the current district attorney's office, and the same with court administration. And we really went about that in, I think, the only way we could, which was going out and trying to hire the absolute best public defender attorneys we could find from across the
Mhm.
country. And that was really, really important to us. And so we started about 8 years ago, going out just trying to find the best lawyers we could find. And what we really wanted to do as well is we wanted to diversify our office as well. We wanted
Right.
our
Right.
office to look like the public it is responsible for representing. So we went across the country and found, I'm telling you, some of the best lawyers that work in the justice system work in our public defender's office
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
So, we stand up for unpopular causes sometimes, and we have difficult cases, and
Yeah.
we argue, what folks would call technicalities, but really we're making sure that constitutional rights are not being infringed or not being trampled upon. So, you know, oftentimes, yeah, we are the least popular person in the room, but I really do think that in order to have a justice system, you need a strong public defender's office.
Right. Right. Thank you for that because you know when we receive a public defender and we receive a public defender that fights and have the values of treating everyone the same, and I always like to say regardless of the zip code. You know what I mean? So you will be the most not liked because you're doing something that's over and beyond. And I assure you your clients appreciate that. So thank you
Uh,
very much for go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
I appreciate that, but our office had a lot of work to do as well
Mhm.
to get ourselves to the standard where we are now. And because historically our office has not been as strong as it is today.
Right.
And I took that responsibility very, very seriously. And during my time there, we've really done a lot of different things out of the public
Mhm.
defender's office, which included representing folks at the first arraignment, to try to get folks out and eliminate cash bail.
Right.
We started doing our expungement project, where we actually brought these services into neighborhoods most impacted by the criminal justice system. And expungement services are really, really important, but more important to me was
Mhm.
having a presence in the community. Is
Mhm.
the public defender's office being seen in the community and bringing resources into the community, because
Wow.
we want to be a trusted member of the
Mhm.
community, and that there's no way to earn that other than by working for it. And I really, really saw I saw a value in that. It's something that we dedicated a lot of time and resources to, and it's also something that I hope to bring to the district attorney's office, or rather, I plan to bring to the
Yes.
district attorney's office, is community engagement, community partnerships, because this district attorney's office, it has a lot of work to do to
Okay.
to to gain some percentage of public trust.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's going to go into that right going right into the segue of one of my questions. Because one of my questions was I read that you were saying that how that you believe that if you were to be in the district attorney's office, that you believe that to work with the police, to work with the city, to work with the community organizations, and to work with leaders, what, how does, even when I was reading it, it was, how would that work? How would you how would you, what I'm saying? How would you even start to implement something like that? What if you win and you're in the DA seat?
Yeah. So, what I ask people to do is think differently about the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system of 2024 does not have to look like it does in 2023. And we talk a lot on the trail about the big opportunity that exists with the concurrent county executive race going on.
Right.
We have the potential, I think, for the first time in this county's history, to have a district attorney's office who thinks preventatively about crime and not just reactively, and recognizes that there are social drivers outside of pure criminal intent. We're talking about folks, again, substance abuse, mental health,
Mm-hmm.
just lack of resources. And these are things that we can attempt to get upstream on, right? Like we can attempt to address those issues at the number one, at the person's first entry into the criminal justice system. So if somebody comes
Mm-hmm.
into the criminal justice system and exhibits like a need, then we need to be addressing that need immediately. We don't need to let folks fail multiple times within the criminal justice system and build a record.
Right.
And then only after that point do we offer, help and assistance. I don't see the point of that. We need to be
Right.
doing that at the very first instance, such that we can direct folks out of the criminal justice system and not leave them with the permanent scar of a criminal record that we know creates roadblocks and barriers to advancement. So, but that's going to take some stuff, some effort and resources that exist outside of the justice system, outside of the district attorney's office. And that's why I say it's imperative that we have a county executive and a district attorney who are willing to work together on these issues.
Yeah.
Again, I'm out every night. I'm with the county exec candidates, and they're being asked about criminal justice just as much
Right.
as I am. So this is a big issue for not just the city, but for the county at whole. And the criminal justice system was never designed to deal with substance abuse disorder. It was never designed to be a the jail was not built to be a mental health treatment facility. But yet, for whatever reason, these issues and these health issues have been umbrellaed
Mm-hmm.
under the criminal justice system. So that's why I say it's going to take collaboration, especially and with the mayor's office as well, because
Yeah.
I like the way the mayor talks about crime in the city and the
Mm-hmm.
issues that we face. So we need to think collaboratively and collectively. The district attorney's office historically has waited for crime to occur and then reacts to it, and with the same policy of arrest, prosecute, punish, and no forward thinking whatsoever, no talk of prevention. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about prevention. I want to talk about how we can partner with organizations across the county, and that includes folks on the ground in the communities already doing this work, right? Like there are organizations throughout many of our neighborhoods that are invested in nonviolence prevention, nonviolence practices, and those are
Right.
the entities and folks that we need to be lifting up. We need to raise their voices. We need to give those folks more resources. We need to make sure that the police and those organizations are working together and not at
Right.
odds. So there are ways to think even preventatively about violent crime as well. I truly believe that we must have the ability to think outside the box and be ready to do something different next year.
I'm so glad you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. And I can pick off of several things that I want to comment on. But one of the main ones that I want to comment on, Matt, is that like you were saying, the mayor he speaks on the safety, the crime. He's speaking on the crime. There has been there has been grants for the crime. There has been police and community building on the crime. What would you say to the communities that is not facing the crime rate that we are, or the crime wave that some of our communities are? What would you say to someone that feels safe in their community right now? And what would you say to them how to keep them safe and not experience a crime wave such as some of the communities here in Pittsburgh, predominantly Black, brown, compared to the white community? What would you say if someone was to say, well, how are you going to keep us safe from the violent crime and violent, criminals?
Yeah. So, our, what do we call them? Stump speeches or whatever they're called. I say the
Yeah.
same thing whether I'm in Fox Chapel in Mount Lebanon or if I'm in, the city of Pittsburgh. I talk about the same exact thing because I truly believe that diverting low-level nonviolent offenders out of the system is in and of itself a violence prevention program, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it also gives the opportunity. It frees resources, it frees the attention, it frees training opportunities to really prosecuting violent crime when it occurs. But it also allows for us to again get upstream here. So, folks all throughout the county, because the news is the news and the headlines are the headlines. Everyone's concerned about violent crime, and
Right.
you're right. Like, there was a very, very, very detailed report produced by the Department of Human Services in July of 2022,
Hmm.
and we do know that the instances of violent crime are really pocketed within the county. Like,
Uh-huh.
it just is. Like, homicide victims, 85% of homicide victims are killed within 10 miles of their own home. So
Correct.
it is sort of a locality. But we also know that these neighborhoods share certain characteristics, which is, poorly funded schools, lack of
Hmm.
access to food and treatment and healthcare, high involvement of CYF, high parental involvement in the criminal justice system. So the fact that we know it's pocketed again gives us. I don't listen. It's tough to say like that it's hard to say like it's time to be optimistic. It's not, but because we know it's pocketed and because we know that it really is contained, we can send resources to these areas, and that's why again, partnership and collaboration has to be at the top of the district attorney's wish list. It absolutely has to be. When I was the public defender, and I talked about, I'm still the public defender. When I was running these projects at the public defender's office, the bail and this, you know, we can't do anything on our own. Like, we need partnership. We need the courts to,
Hmm.
let us into, or we need the jail to let us into the holding cells, and we need the court to give us the paperwork. So it required collaboration and partnerships with stakeholders that the public defender's office typically haven't had, like, probation and courts and jail and all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
We were able to build that. And it wasn't until then that we had that network and we became like a trusted partner in criminal justice reform that we really
Mhm.
started seeing like really different results out of our office. The district attorney's office has to be the same way. Has to be the same way.
And thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, and I hope that our audience heard that. Because what I got out of that, and I'm so happy that we heard it. That I heard it is, social organizations, resources, partnership. Partnership is so important. And also, I wanted to comment back on the executive. The county executive in the district attorney's office. So I want our audience to understand the importance of what's going on right now with these races and the candidates that are that are racing be the candidate for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, or the county. So I want to make sure that our audience understand exactly what's going on. And Matt, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And also, I want to say Does the district attorney, well, I want to ask you, does the district attorney have any power in the way that our system is set up, that if I commit a crime and if I don't take a plea of 2 years and I take it to trial and I get found guilty, now I have 21 years. Now, is that something that the district attorney has control over, or is that something that is out of the district attorney's hands?
So the district attorney, why the office is so important and why the office is so powerful is because of the discretion that the office has. So, if you were to pop onto our website, and we have a number of policies. These are it's not non-exhaustive list, but we have policies on there. And that question really starts at the beginning of a case, not even where you're at the tail end of, like, here's your final plea offer and now you're at trial. What we have pledged to do is there's a very common practice across the country, and it occurs here in Allegheny County, and it called charge stacking, which is you have one criminal incident and you charge as many crimes as you possibly can. Oftentimes they're redundant, and sometimes they're a bit of a stretch. And that, from the very beginning, you know, cast a case in a different light. So, people always say, like, oh, if you want, I want to end the death penalty. And I say, that's great. You need to start with bail. You need to start at the very front of the
Mm-hmm.
line. And so we have pledged that we will not stack charges. We will charge only the crimes that are supported by evidence, and we will not charge numerous duplicative charges. Because we know the more charges an MDJ sees, they're going to say, it looks more serious, it looks like a bigger deal, and then you're
Right.
less likely to get a fair bond, you're less likely to post it, or or you have to post it when you otherwise wouldn't have had to. So it leads everything down like the wrong track. And we've also put on our website that we will not leverage additional charges to induce a plea. Like, we're going to work our cases. If the facts are there, the facts are there. And we will not support a trial tax. Now, can the judges impose more than what we offered? Yes, they can, but we would not advocate for that. We would not
Okay.
advocate for that. Folks have the right to go to trial. Folks have the right to trial. But they also, in my opinion, have the right to be treated fairly throughout that process.
Right. Right. And I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to, when I was reading, I wanted to, you know, in that same, as that same question, um, how a defendant can see exactly what the district attorney, what proof do you have, that you have, that you're saying you have on me, and also the victim, should be able to say, hey, can I see what evidence you have, to convict this person? And so, how would that work if you were the district attorney? Would if I committed a crime, would I be able to see exactly what charges do you have on me? What proof do you have on me?
That's a fantastic question, and it's great because this policy is also on our website, which is we would initiate an immediate open file discovery process, which is we would exchange full discovery as it came in. So we wouldn't wait until late in the game or anything like that. Once the district attorney's office had it in its possession, it would be shared with defense counsel and or defendant. We That also goes for what's called Brady material. Brady material is exculpatory evidence. Now, sometimes DAs across the country, and they do it here, they get to decide first whether they believe it's exculpatory. I don't agree with that. We don't know what defense counsel or strategy is going to be. So we have pledged also to not make Brady determinations, that we will turn over anything involved in the investigation of the case. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
as far
very
as
much.
victims as well, that's a good question as well, which is, so we have also pledged to create an in-house victim services unit, because
Mm,
we know that the current district attorney's office is not very good about taking care of their victims and their witnesses, meaning, you know, there's oftentimes handoffs between attorneys, the communication is bad, not the information is not shared with victims. So
Okay.
what we want to do is we want to have in-house victim services staffed with social workers and advocates, and those folks are working hand in hand with the attorneys assigned to the case. And because we recognize, especially in our most violent crimes, right? You know,
Right.
when you think about a fatality, we know that, you know, it's more than just a grieving mom and a grieving dad. There's brothers, there's
Exactly.
cousins, there's sisters, there's neighbors. And that trauma can permeate not just a household, but a neighborhood, and it can really
Mhm.
impact so many folks. So we want to be mindful of that. And we also realize that at times can feed into a cycle of further violence. So we really want to be a trusted member of society, and that comes with treating people with compassion and care and providing services to victims when they most need it. And that's not just for cases where an individual has been charged with a crime, because half of our homicides aren't charged. Half of our
Right.
homicides are their suspects remain at large. That doesn't mean that that there's not ongoing trauma and
Right.
current trauma and grieving loved ones. Like, we need to be doing we need to be doing for those folks the same that we do with the folks whose you know cases in the system.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And a couple more questions. And what I wanna ask the question on what the answer which you just gave, pertaining to, because Matt, you know, if you are our next district attorney, you will be stepping in with a whole lot of unsolved murders. Um, and so, you know, how would you? I hear you were saying that, you know, you'll be having a special unit, you know, for special cases. But how do you plan on tackling these, or revisiting them? Because we know the detectives, because everyone says, I have it here, you know, the the sergeant says, the mayor says, the news says, everyone says we need the community help. We need the community help. And so, how would you tackle, or if you were the district attorney, would you even revisit? Because to my understanding, just of last year, I think like 33% of the homicides were solved. How would you even attempt to address these unsolved murders here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
I think that process starts with a, attempting to build a relationship with the public, attempting to like extend, you know, the first plank of a bridge to the public. There's a huge amount of distrust
Yeah,
with the communities, with, you know, law enforcement and the district attorney's office. There just is.
yeah,
um, and you know, I think a lot of times the information is out there, folks, but it for many
yeah.
reasons, folks are just reluctant to share with law enforcement. And until until there's some effort made by the DA's office to really show that, like, this is an investment in, like, in these neighborhoods. Like, we're trying we I don't accept as fact that certain neighborhoods have to live in crisis. And
Hmm.
it would be my sincere hope that we could develop policies and procedures and practices and relationships that we can work to get these sites out of crisis. And one of the ways that we hope that we will go about doing that is by having a community advisory board, which is to
Mm.
have folks from all over the county who will be advisors to the district attorney's office, such that every new policy, every new practice, every new department or division will have consistent feedback and impact. We will meet quarterly, and we also plan on hosting public forums throughout the year where we can come and hear from residents about, you know, what they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they want to see be done differently. So we want to engage the public, but we want the public also to engage with us. And I view that as an opportunity to be a big task force, and we can have folks, and we can have, and this is where you can start lifting up voices. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
priority. That's bullet point number one, or bullet point in the top five in the first 100 days.
Okay, because my next question, and you actually answered it. I was going to my next question to you. I only had like two more questions. My next question to you literally was, from this administration, what would you do different, or what would you add on to what is already going good, or what would you do different because it's not being done. And literally the public hearings and the advisory committee is something that the city will probably I will be extremely happy about. Even having the quarterly community meetings, the public hearings from our district attorney's office is something that I'm sure the city would like to welcome. So that was my next question, but you answered it. So thank you very much. Um, my next question to you, two more questions, maybe three. My next question to you, Matt, is why you? Why you for district attorney?
So, I have I think I have a unique insight into the criminal justice system. I've worked 16 years here in Allegheny County. I've only worked in Allegheny County. This is my first job out of law school, and being a public defender, you see a lot of pain in the system, and you see a lot of built-in failure, I think. To be honest with you, Terry, I didn't like this. This is not some long held desire. The only thing I wanted was to be a part of the discussion as to who was going to be, the candidate this year to
Yeah.
challenge Mr. Sapala, because somebody has to. And there were a lot of good candidates, I think, who were elected to the bench as part of the slate of eight. And
Mm-hmm.
and I met with and spoke with a lot of folks about who it was going to be, and they kept saying, like, if you don't know who it is, then it's you.
Yeah.
Um, and I wasn't trying to elbow anybody else out of the way, but there were a lot of folks, and I said this at our launch party as well. There were a lot of folks whose opinion I absolutely trust,
Mm-hmm.
and whose work I admire, who were willing to say, "I'll get behind you," and
Yeah.
that gave me, because I didn't say yes right away. I didn't say
Okay.
yes right away, but Terry, I'll tell you this as well. I only said yes once I knew that I would be 100% committed through this, election cycle, and if I
Mm-hmm.
thought I could win. And we've been 100% committed, and I think we're going to win.
Okay. Okay. And just to tap in on what you were saying, that I know that for a fact that people was asking. There was at least 10, maybe 10, 12 people on this list of people who was going, the conversations was going around about, and your name kept popping up. Your name kept, and so yes, I know that is true. But I'm glad you shared that with us. But before, I want to say, Matt, if somebody has some questions for you that maybe I didn't bring up, because I know you're busy. It's like your team keeps you out there, so I don't want to hold you a whole lot more longer. But if someone has questions for you that maybe we didn't discuss, or they may want to donate, they may want to volunteer, how can somebody get in touch with you?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. Our website will put you right in touch with both my campaign manager and me. That's Dugan 4DA, FORDA.com. There's our policies are on there. Again, not all of them, but a lot of them give you an idea of my background, where we hope to take the district attorney's office, and how we hope to get there. So there's a lot of information there. And if you have more questions, send to info@duganforda.com, and I promise you we will respond.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Dugan, if you have a candidate for a county district attorney, if you have any more questions that maybe I did not ask, we did not discuss or go further into, maybe you want to volunteer or maybe you want to donate. He gave you his website. He gave you his campaign manager information. Look out and ask your questions so you can get the answers that you want and you need. So, Matt, before we call it the night, I'm gonna ask you to stay on before when we log off. But before we call it the night, is there anything else that you would like to say?
I look forward to seeing everyone out there. I'm gonna be out there, and if you see me, just come right up if you have a question. I'm super accessible. So yeah, we got a lot of work left to do, but we're gonna do it.
Thank you, Matt Dugan. Thank you, his team. Matt Dugan, ladies and gentlemen, a candidate for Allegheny County District Attorney. And I want to say thank you for joining us. Again, like, subscribe, share. And tomorrow we have Patrick Sweeney, and we hope to see you then. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Dugan. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good night.